Hey guys, and welcome to the Working Money channel. Please subscribe, guys. It really does help with that YouTube algorithm, and a thumbs up never hurts as well. Magistrate Judge Sarah Netburn has ordered the U.S. Security and Exchange Commission to answer some of Ripple's hotly contested interrogatories. This coming from Michael at Val5 Links here on Twitter. So here's the latest update, guys. What that means is that those are meant to determine whether or not the plaintiff's contentions can be supported by the facts. The agency will have to specify why the company's XRP sales are investment contracts. So the SEC's legal theory is not an excuse to avoid responding to the defendant's factual inquiry, nor is it a basis to answer a different question than posed. That was a quote. In addition, the SEC will have to state whether it believes that Ripple's efforts were key to boosting the price of XRP. However, Ripple's interrogatory about whether or not the XRP ledger was fully functional prior to the start of the securities offering has been denied for being too vague. The court agrees that this interrogatory seeks relevant information, but defendant's interrogatory is too vague for the reasons identified by the SEC. Netburn has also granted the SEC's motion for a protective order, which allows the regulator not to respond to all of Ripple's unreasonably burdensome interrogatories. The agency claimed that covering all those requests would take a heck of a long time, and there are about 30,000 of them there. We know recently that they did just push the discovery deadline, so now expert witnesses can go up until January 14th of 2022. What does this all mean, guys? Well, we've got a lot of opinions now circulating on Twitter about this. Wrath of Kahneman saying this, an important piece to put in play here, okay? Retweeting out Crypto Law or John Deaton's opinion about this, Netburn orders the SEC to answer Ripple's interrogatory and identify the specific terms of the investment contract. So that was the major kind of central piece of today's update. Wrath of Kahneman goes on to say, now the SEC is forced to identify what exactly the investment contract was for XRP purchasers for all the sales. Overall, these orders seem to further Ripple's desire to pin the SEC down on a lot of particulars in discovery, but protects the SEC from reviewing every sale. Takeaway is that Netburn won't allow disputed legal interpretations to preclude data in discovery. Note that he says, Ripple's desire to pin the SEC down. This, I think, is Ripple's strategy here, because they realize the vagueness of all of this is really what's giving the SEC, I suppose, keeping them above water for the time being. They're kind of treading water at this point, I think, and, them not really committing to anything is really what's giving this lawsuit staying power, I suppose, for the SEC's benefit. Ripple obviously just wants to get this settled and done with. Give us the clarity. Tell us what we need to do. They've been screaming this from the rooftops since the beginning, yet the SEC has refused. So that's a point brought up by Wrath of Kahneman here. Stéphane Hubert also brings this up, which I thought was important just for context of this entire case. Can you even imagine what this could mean? So in both the Kick Interactive case and the Block.one EOS case, the SEC only filed a lawsuit when the companies realized that the Ethereum blockchain was unusable, stopped using Ethereum, and wanted to switch to their own blockchain. Now, here is some evidence to suggest just that. Kick therefore recognized that the Ethereum blockchain was incapable of running consumer applications at sufficient volumes or scale to make Kin successful. Even though Kick chose the Ethereum blockchain as Kin's platform, Kick could not use the blockchain for Kin transactions within Kick Messenger. So they were going to go with Ethereum. They found out that, or they realized, I suppose, at a certain point in time that they could not, and therefore they ditched that idea, which would be a different blockchain than an Ethereum blockchain. So they then decided to do something else. Then what happens? They get sued by the SEC. So Stéphane Hubert also just linking that sec.gov document down here if you guys wish to read the full thing. I wanted to thank Christotet down here for tagging me in this. This is really interesting stuff, guys. I gotta say, this lawsuit, I never thought I'd be this interested in the law, right? I feel like, lawsuits, they're just kind of, just get dragged on. And I just care about what I care about, really, which is, in essence, writing and directing films and cryptocurrency. Those are my two passions. Anyway, the law is interesting. It can be interesting when you kind of get into the weeds with it. Especially when it will be affecting something that is very important to you, namely XRP in this case. So an interesting perspective here. Of course, the Twitter sleuths are on it. Stéphane Hubert also bringing this up, a document from 2014, with regards to Vitalik Buterin. This is what he suggested back then. He suggested that the consensus algorithm of the XRP ledger could be a possible solution to the problems that Ethereum was having at that time and as a basis for Ethereum 2. Charles Gasparino, so much for Ethereum being finished and decentralized when XRP was always superior. So here's just another quote here from Vitalik stating that one approach is to use what is essentially Ripple consensus between chains. Have each chain decide either initially on launch or over time via stakeholder consensus, how much it values the consensus input, so on and so forth. So just more evidence to suggest that, Ethereum was not fully decentralized at that moment in time, poking holes in the SEC's, stated clearance of Ethereum. So just another important point to bring up. And Digital Asset Buy here on Twitter posting this video, guys, of Neha Narula, the director of MIT Digital Currency Initiative and former colleague of Gary Gensler. She runs the Digital Currency Initiative at one of the most prestigious universities in the world, where Gensler came from, and even she thinks the Hinman ETH free pass speech is BS. All right, listen to what she had to say.
As an example, Hinman's speech, where he talked about decentralization, really scared me because I don't think we know what that word means. And to hear someone from the SEC using that word as a metric for something is really frightening to me, because we really have no clue what that word means. We don't know how to measure it. There are lots of different types of decentralization. We don't know how to compare them. Decentralization isn't even really an end goal in and of itself. It's sort of a way we characterize a bunch of different things that fit together, like something that's censorship resistant, something where there's no single point of failure. And so when I see things like that, I get really, really worried.
So even Neha Narula is a little disconcerted by the Hinman ETH free pass speech. Let's not forget, she was a former colleague of Gary Gensler. We can see her here with Gary Gensler, here side by side. This was a digital currency wars and national security crisis simulation from way back in 2019. Interesting how these simulations just kind of coincidentally occur maybe a few months, a year, a couple of years before a big major overhaul of the financial system. Anyway, that is perhaps a topic for another video. And here again, crypto and regulation from back in 2018, the MIT Digital Currency Initiative. This is just a video with Gary Gensler and Neha Narula here talking about this side by side on that topic. Meanwhile, she's kind of confused over this Hinman speech and what it means, and even this concept of decentralization. She's questioning the whole thing. So Stéphane Hubert here on a roll. I found the video in which Gary Gensler says 75% of all crypto is already considered as commodities. I'm now an official Twitter sleuth. You certainly are, Stéphane. And to that point, here's the video of Gary Gensler actually stating that, all right? 3/4 of the cryptocurrency market. And you'll hear it here. He says they're currencies or commodities. He can't even make up his mind on it. Listen to this.
The world of crypto finance, you've seen this slide before, but it's been quite volatile. About 220 billion in the last few days. And a little over 50%, 54% is Bitcoin and the other big currencies right now on market value, Ethereum, Ripple, and the like. We'll talk a lot about initial coin offerings and are they securities, are they not? But I would note, in terms of market value, probably 3/4 of this space has already been determined by the Securities and Exchange Commission not to be a security. Bitcoin's 54%. Ether's about, 15 points or something like that. So you're all of a sudden up to about 70 points, and then there's a bunch of other things that add up. So about 3/4 of the market value right now is what one might call a cash or a commodity, but not a security in this world. And that's just relevant for some of the debates that go.
A cash or a commodity, well, it's one or the other, but it certainly is not a security. He's stating that about 75% of the crypto market, at least at the time that he did this presentation, which I'm assuming was 2018 or 2019, when he was at MIT. So I think that speaks volumes. And, Stéphane Hubert, thank you so much for everything you do here. Here's the quote from Brad Garlinghouse, actually quite impressed by the Twitter sleuths out there. Listen to this. This is from DC FinTech Week from just the other day.
Twitter has had an interesting, in my judgment, role that I have never seen before, because there are some amazing people out there, which I'll just generically call the Twitter sleuths. And they have found, videos of people at the SEC, whether it's Jay Clayton or Director Bill Hinman, or more recently, the new chair, Gary Gensler, whom you had on this morning, saying things like, hey, that the status isn't clear, or saying, hey, 75% of the market of crypto is not securities. This is a quote from Gary Gensler, that now saying, well, no, he views most of it, if not all of it, as a security. So I think it's clear that the market has not had clarity. I think it's that is certain.
So there you go. Brad Garlinghouse just telling it like it is. Twitter sleuths, obviously on Ripple's side. We're doing our part to get this information out there, to sink the SEC's case, to help XRP get the clarity it needs. And so, guys, I wanted to bring this to you as well from Scott Chamberlain. Now, for those of you guys who do not know Scott Chamberlain, he's a former lawyer, entrepreneurial fellow, ANU College of Law, and one of the co-founders of Evernote XRPL, not to mention also part of UBRI. And for those of you guys who do not know what that is the University Blockchain Research Initiative, which we know that Ripple is a part of. So he is connected to Ripple in an indirect way, I suppose. So a former lawyer here, but I just wanted to give you guys some of that background because he does comment here too on the Ripple SEC case. So because of summary judgment, deadline was adjourned because discovery was taking so long. Now discovery can take longer. Courts prefer rigor over speed. This case is war, not theater. He is suggesting that, this is a real full-out war and that it is not just theatrics to distract us. So he's kind of, stating a bit of a different opinion here. It won't end soon and it won't settle. Not until something breaks the status quo. So Dylan down here asked, in your opinion, what breaks the status quo? Would favorable discovery documents garner enough leverage for a settlement? Seems to be the only remaining items outside of striking fair notice defense. Well, this inspired Scott Chamberlain to write an entire thread on what he thinks, and he brings up some clever points here that I wanted to mention that is really kind of helping the SEC at this moment in time. But once that defense is pierced, it will be all over. 3 things. He says the SEC conceding that XRP per se is not now a security because exchanges can then relist and Ripple can do a deal and then move forward. So the SEC does not want to give the clarity right yet. He goes on to say, number 2, the SEC properly particularizing its claim to detail exactly what it claims makes XRP a security, because the XRP community can then ensure that the XRPL meets that standard, and then number 1 above applies. So going back to this point up here. He goes on to say, number 3, the SEC losing its fight to strike the fair notice defense, which we know is a big one, because I don't think it wants to risk a precedent that effectively says regulation by enforcement in this space is a breach of its fair notice obligations. But that only drives the SEC back to points 1 and 2. The logjam is the SEC's failure/refusal to properly plead why XRP is a security. It either doesn't know or doesn't want the industry to know. That failure enlivens the fair notice defense, prevents settlement, and prevents the XRPL community from ensuring XRP is not a security. So picking up the loose ends to this thread, number 1, either A, XRP is a security per se, or B, by way XRP was sold was a security. Number 2, if A, then there must be a way that it ceases to be a security because the SEC has said that this is possible through sufficient decentralization or otherwise. Number 3, example, if Ripple owns too much XRP, it can own less. If Ripple runs too many validators, it can run less. If Ripple has too much control of the DUNL, the XRP-LF DUNL can be used. If Ripple contributes too much development, the XRP LF can be staffed and funded to do more. So, and here's the crux. The moment the SEC clarifies its claims can be neutered. And if B, then there must be a way Ripple can sell XRP without being part of a security. Secondary sales are not securities, and XRP should be relisted and used in the US. Number 5, this whole case hinges on the SEC's refusal to provide clarity, guys. So this is what he's stating here. Its pleadings add FRA answered carefully avoid clarity. Having failed to publish meaningful guidance, it doesn't want an effectively binding Howey versus crypto framework to emerge implicitly from its sworn pleadings. Lack of clarity gives it optionality and protection. Its arguments can be whatever it needs to be to win, and its policy can become whatever emerges as the winner from court. Its vagueness protects it from being wrong. So you see what the SEC is doing here. Very astute observations from Scott Chamberlain. They are purposely being vague because once they give a clear-cut definition, then they have to commit to it, and then everything else, well, in this case, everything else collapses like a house of cards for them because now there's the clarity and now there's a definitive answer. So Scott Chamberlain is suggesting that the SEC is purposely being vague so that they can drag this out and hopefully buy them time to find some kind of answer to be able to win this case based on, I mean, who knows what their legal team is doing behind closed doors there. But I think Ripple's team, super strong, smart individuals. They've also got the Twitter sleuths on their side, giving them more evidence to suggest shadiness going on behind the SEC's closed doors. This is something that I did not consider until I saw this, right? That lack of clarity is really what's keeping this SEC lawsuit afloat. But guys, once we get definitive clarity, once the judge realizes this and asks the SEC, well, what are the rules exactly? And the SEC has to come up with something, it's all over for the U.S. Security and Exchange Commission. That's just my opinion and Scott Chamberlain's, but I want to hear what you guys think. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video if you like the content I'm providing. I always love hearing your comments. See you in the next one, guys.